Welcome back to Accounting with Madam Mombi. This is a continuation of a CVP analysis that I have already done, and I hope you have watched part 1. Just a recap, in introduction to CVP analysis, we looked at what is CVP analysis. We also looked at the assumptions underlying the CVP analysis. We also looked at different approaches from the graphical approach, mathematical approach, which is algebraic, and also the contribution margin approach in getting the break-even point where you had a single product. So in today's class, we are going to look at a multi-product break-even point whereby an organization has more than one product. So without wasting much time, in a multi-product case, it is assumed that the sales mix is constant. That is, the approximate proportions of the sales in terms of units is the same. For example, if you're having two products, A and B, it is assumed, for example, that their sales mix is 1:2. That sales mix is constant. Our formulas have not changed so much. You remember that when you're getting break-even point in units for a single product, it was fixed cost over contribution margin. Now, in this our case, when you have several units, we are going to change this to weighted average contribution margin. Now, what is weighted average contribution margin? I am going to be assuming we have two products, A and B. So to get the weighted average contribution margin, we are going to get the weight of A, our first product, and weight of A, contribution margin of A, you multiply the two, you add the weight of B, contribution margin of B. I have said I am assuming we have only two products, A and B. It also means there would be more. You would have 3 products, 4 products, and it will continue in the same format. Weight of C multiplied by contribution margin of C plus, and so on and so forth. Now, of most importance to note, if you want to get the answer in units, then you have to compute the weight in terms of units, the approximate proportion of the sales in terms of units. And why is this very important? You are going to see it because when we come to get the answer in shillings, if you want to get the answer in shillings, then you have to see that the weight is in the sales value for us to be able to get the answer in shillings. And again, we are going to now introduce working weighted average contribution margin ratio for us to get the answer in shillings. Now, to be able to achieve that, we can simply do our question here. Our question says that assume that a company has the following budget for products A and B, where total fixed cost is 300,000. Compute the break-even point in units and in shillings for the whole company and for each product. You can see that the sales units is A 120,000, B 40,000. The selling price per unit is shillings 5 for A and shillings 10 for B. Variable cost per unit is shillings 4. And variable cost per unit for B is shillings 3. And we are expected from this information to advise the company on the break-even point in units and in shillings. So I'd advise you take note of the question so that we can be able now to come forward and proceed and get an answer. So for us to be able to get the break-even, I would maybe first of all simply focus on writing the key points from our question. We have product A and we have product B, and you have the sales in units as 120,000 and 40,000. And we can get a total column here. Total, it is going to be 160,000. So from this, the first thing we can do is to get the weight. That is the weight of A and the weight of B. from this question. So weight of, here, let's get the weight. The weight of A is 120 units divided by 160 units. So we are saying weight of A is 120,000 over 160,000. This is equal to 3 over 4. The weight of B, according in units, this is weight in units. Then the weight of B is going to be 40,000 divided by the total, which is 160,000. And this is going to be a quarter, equal to a quarter. So we can have there, those are the weights of our two products. That is weight of A and the weight of B. Now, in our question, we had also been given, or we had also been told, the selling price per unit. Selling price here per unit, which have been given in our question as shillings 5 and shillings 10. And we also have been given the variable cost per unit as shillings 4 and shillings 3. These were in our question. The ones that I am highlighting here, this was in our question. This is also in our question. So was this. They were part of the question. Now, what do we also need to get? Here we have gotten the weight. Here we can get the contribution margin. So we can simply say what is the contribution margin then per unit. And we are saying that contribution margin is SP minus VC. That is how we get the contribution margin per unit. Therefore, it is going to be 5 minus 4. So for A, contribution margin is going to be 5 minus 4. So it is going to be 1. So we are saying for contribution margin of A is going to be shillings 1. And for B, it is 10 minus 3, which is going to give us shillings 7. Now, what we require from our first question, we require to get the break-even point in units. So I can come here and say we want to get the break-even point in units is equals to fixed cost over weighted average contribution margin. So we are going to get the fixed cost. We had been told in our question that the fixed cost is 300,000. Then we want to get the weighted average contribution margin, which we have said it is weight of A. Looking here, the weight of A is 3 over 4. So weight of A is 3 over 4 multiplied by the contribution margin of A. Contribution margin of A is 1, shillings 1, plus weight of B. The weight of B is a quarter. That is a proportion of B multiplied by the contribution margin of B. Contribution margin of B is 7. So this is if you compute this, you are going to get it is also equals to 300,000 divided by, this is equal to 3 over 4. This is 7 over 4, which is 10 over 4. 10 over 4 is the same as 2.5. 2.5. So this means that our answer, which is a BEP in units, is equals to 120 units. This is the total number of units we need to sell for the whole, for the organization to break even. And this is a combination of A and B. So the break even point per unit for A, we are saying the weight of A should be 3 over 4. So the weight of A should be 3 over 4 of 120,000 to break even. So the weight of A in the break-even sales should be 90,000 or 90,000 units. Then the weight of B should be 1/4, a quarter. A quarter multiplied by 120,000, you are going to get that it is 30,000. So you do not have to go back to look for the break-even point of each individual unit, or you don't have to go back to look at the break-even point per unit. If they are sold together, we assume the sales mix is constant. So at the break-even point, if the break-even point sales is 120,000 units, it is a composition of A and B in a sales mix that is constant, which is 3/4 and 1/4, as we got there from our question. So this means that you do not have to look for the break-even point of A individually and B individually. We have them here from the sales mix, because our assumption now is that the sales mix is constant. That is how you get break-even point in units. We're also going to get the break-even point in shillings. I want you to note very carefully that when we are looking for break-even point in units, we use the weight in terms of units. We simply get the total of the units, which is giving us 160, and then you ask yourself what is the proportion of A and what is the proportion of B in the total. 120/160 is a 3/4, while 40/160 is a quarter. These are the weights or the proportions. So here weight represents the proportions, and then you can proceed. So to answer the second part of our question, to get the BEP in shillings, again I'm going to start here, and then now we want to get the answer in shillings. We can recall that the sales in units, you have A and B. A and B was 120,000, and this was 40,000. We can also recall that the selling price per unit was shillings 5 and shillings 10. So this time we want to get the weight, but in terms of sales value. So therefore, our sales value is equals to, you multiply the sales in units multiplied by the selling price. So you have to multiply this and get shillings 600,000. You multiply 120 times 5. You also multiply here and get 40,000 times 10, which is 400,000. Those are the sales value. Now, I insist, and I've insisted again, that we need now to get the weight in shillings. So the weight of A now changes. It is equals to the total of these two, as much as I have not put the total column, is 1 million. So the total there is 1 million. So the weight of this is equals to 600,000 over 1 million, which you can say is simply 0.6. And the weight of B is 400,000 divided by 1 million, which again is going to give us 0.4. Now you can realize that the weights have changed. Now the weight in terms of sales value is different from what we had as the weight in form of units. But the rest of the information is the same, because here the contribution margin remains the same, CM per unit. It remains the same. When I say the same, it is the same as what we had here, whereby we had the contribution margin per unit was shillings 1. Again, it was the difference between selling price minus variable cost. You get contribution margin. Selling price minus variable cost, you get contribution margin. So it was simply 1 and 7. So these ones we do not need to recompute. They are the same, the contribution margins. So you can simply bring it here that the contribution margin is shillings 1 and shillings 7. Having this in mind, now we can do the break-even point, BEP, but this time in shillings. We want to get the answer in shillings. So for us to be able to get BP in shillings, it is equals to fixed cost over weighted average contribution margin ratio. So our fixed cost is 300,000. Then our weighted average contribution margin ratio is given by weight of A. Now guys, the weight of A is now 0.6. Do not get yourself twisted here. Weight of A is 0.6 multiplied by contribution margin of A is shillings 1 divided by the selling price of A. Remember we said when you're using the ratio, we have to divide by the selling price here. So the selling price is 5. The selling price of A is 5. Then you get the weight of B. The weight of B is 0.4. You multiply by the contribution margin. Here it is 7. The contribution margin is 7. Divided by the selling price. The selling price is 10. So the selling price is 10. And this one is going to give us now the BP, but now in shillings, which shall be equals to 300,000. If you work out this, in total, it is going to give you 0.4. And this is going to give us that our BP in shillings is equals to 750,000, which is our BP in shillings. Again, we do not now need to require to go to get BP per unit. We just need our per product. We just simply need to know that these 750 shillings of BP in shillings, we can simply divide between A and B in their proportion. So this is 0.6, that is the weight, and this one is 0.4. Multiplied by 750,000, also multiplied by 750,000, and you're going to get that for A, at the break-even point in shillings, it is going to be 450,000. And for B, it is going to be 300,000. So this is how you compute now BP both in units and BP in shillings. Now there's something I would like to show you here. From what we had in the first slide here, looking at this, the BP in units as 90,000 and the BPA in units as 30,000. These were the BP in units. I want also to look at the BP in shillings. Now, this is 90, this is 30. Now, the BP in shillings is 450 and 300. If you remember our formula, we said that BP in units multiplied by selling price should give you BP in shillings. And we can prove that for A, the units is 90,000. B, the units is 30,000 units. And if you multiply this by their selling prices, selling price of 5 and selling price of 10. If we multiply by their selling price of 5 and selling price of 10, we can get BP in shillings, which is here as 450. And here 300,000. So it is true to say, once you get the break-even point in units, you can simply multiply with the selling price. And then you're going to get the BP in shillings. We are saying these are the answers that we have here. They are the ones we have here in shillings. These ones. And you can see that the ones we have here, the BP in units, is what we had here previously. as a BP in units here. So now, of importance to note is that when you want to use this formula, then you must remember that the weight has now to be computed in terms of sales value, and also the contribution margin ratio requires you to have the denominator of selling price here on the working here. So thank you very much. That is just part 2 of CVP analysis, and I hope you enjoyed and learned. And if you did, share, like, and subscribe. Thank you.